Welcome to this week's Resilience by Default Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be talking about closing the confidence gap in operational resilience. Now, it's a term we hear all the time, right? But what does it really mean to be resilient? And how can you actually tell the difference between real strength and, well, just wishful thinking?
Right, so Terry really hits the nail on the head with this. Operational resilience. It feels like everyone's talking about it. But here's the kicker. There's this huge disconnect between how visible the term is and how deeply it's misunderstood in practice.
You see, in a recent analysis of FCA findings, Terry highlights that a lot of organizations are still grappling with some really fundamental weaknesses. And we're not talking about minor tweaks here. This is about the core foundations. It all starts with something he calls the confidence gap.
So what exactly is the confidence gap? Well, Terry calls it a dangerous space, and that's exactly what it is. It's that huge gulf between what an organization's board believes it can withstand and what it can actually prove it can survive.
And this really brings the whole concept right home, doesn't it? It's a question every leader should be asking themselves. Are you operating on belief or are you operating on proof? This slide just lays out those two sides of the gap perfectly. On one side, you've got the board's belief, this really confident statement that we can recover from anything. But on the other side, you've got the provable reality. That belief has rarely, if ever, been tested against scenarios that are severe enough to actually mean anything. So what's causing this confidence gap? Terry argues it's often a case of confusing regulatory compliance with genuine capability. He's identified 6 key weaknesses that are all symptoms of what he calls false resilience. Okay, weakness number 1 is in mapping. And while firms are getting better, the focus is still way too narrow. There's this obsession with technology, but not nearly enough attention is paid to the human elements. You know, the people, their knowledge, the physical locations, and critically, the third-party suppliers who are absolutely integral to delivering services. As Terry notes, resilience rarely collapses because a server goes down. It collapses because of the things we take for granted. Undocumented workarounds, single points of failure within teams, and yeah, critically, untested assumptions about our third-party providers. This flawed mapping leads directly into the second weakness, scenario testing. The FCA found firms claiming they could recover from any scenario without a shred of evidence. Terry argues this is because their tests are designed to be passed, to tick a box, rather than to generate real learning by pushing the organization to its breaking point. You know, real valuable testing needs to be uncomfortable. It should model the loss of critical people, not just systems. It has to explore multi-party failures where your suppliers are also dealing with multiple other crises. It needs to account for long outages, not just a quick fix. This is where you find the real vulnerabilities. Next is what Terry calls the weakest link of all, vulnerability management. The FCA noted some firms reporting few or even no vulnerabilities in their self-assessments. Now, that might sound good, but it's not a sign of strength. It's a massive red flag. This reveals a really deep insight into organizational culture. Terry puts it bluntly. A self-assessment showing no vulnerabilities doesn't mean you're resilient. It means you're blind. It suggests a governance framework that rewards green dashboards over uncomfortable truths. The other weaknesses follow a pretty similar pattern. Fourth, you've got communication plans that look great on paper, but have never been tested for when primary channels inevitably fail. Fifth, a lack of genuine board engagement, where assessments are signed off without sufficient challenge or evidence. And finally, the ultimate confusion, mistaking the compliance paperwork for the actual, tangible capability to withstand a crisis. So after identifying all these signs of false resilience, what's the solution? Well, Terry proposes a fundamentally different approach he calls resilience by default. Now, this isn't just another process. It's a fundamental mindset shift away from what he calls assurance theater, where everything looks good on paper, to assurance reality. And that demands a culture of transparency where vulnerabilities are actively sought out and everything is grounded in proof. Terry's framework is built on 3 core pillars. First, evidence. Every claim of resilience must be backed by proof, not assumption. Second, ownership. This cannot be delegated to a program team. It must be owned at the executive level. And third, discipline. Resilience isn't something you bolt on at the end. It must be embedded into the design of products and services right from the very beginning. And you know what? The regulator agrees. The FCA's message is perfectly aligned with this, telling firms to embed resilience into their core design principles. This reframes resilience as a strategic choice, not just a regulatory burden. This all leads to a really powerful conclusion about what resilience truly is. It's not a passive state you achieve by filling out paperwork. It's an active, ongoing choice. So, the crucial takeaway is this. Real resilience is not a document you can simply file away and forget about. And it's not a temporary program with a fixed start and an end date. It is, as Terry defines it, a behavior practiced daily, a culture that values transparency, and a conscious choice made at every level of the organization.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question to take back to our own organizations. Is your resilience an assumption, just hoping for the best? Or have you made the choice to build it in, by default? Podcasts are released every Tuesday on Spotify and YouTube. Like, subscribe, and repost. It really helps us build the channel and focus on what's important to you. And just so you know, on Tuesday, 9th June, the Resilience Association has its 6th annual summit. This year's theme is Critical Third Parties, Strengthening the Backbone of Resilience. Terry will be there.